Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to my YouTube channel, Buddhist Biohacker. And welcome to episode number 261 of this podcast. And my name is Lisa Gunshore. I'm your host and your mystic guide. And I am joined by my dear friend, Kate Swick. Back
Hi.
with me. Hi, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. And we are going to be talking about decluttering your space and your mind today, which I think is a great topic. We are 4 weeks away from daylight savings. If in fact we still have that in 4 weeks, I guess we'll see. That means that spring is coming. So it's a great topic. For those of you who are joining in the live, you can absolutely chat with us live. You can share comments and questions here in the chat. And if you're joining on the replay, please comment anyways. Like, comment, subscribe. That helps with the algorithms for sure. And we're going to be mixing Kate's Feng Shui expertise today with my coaching techniques to talk about transformation, both internally and externally, which I'm so excited about. And we're going to start with a meditation, which I'm excited about too. It's a great way to start the show. So for everybody who's watching, if you want to, we're going to do a little guided visualization to release limiting beliefs, which I know I need to do. I think we all need to do that. So just find a quiet space. If you're watching this on the replay, you can pause this and just kind of go find a spot to sit. And let's just take a moment to close our eyes and just take some deep breaths in and out. We're setting the intention for our show today to release, reset, and realign. So bring your awareness to your breath and take a deep breath in through the nose. Hold for a moment and then exhale out through the mouth. With each breath, feel yourself becoming more present and more at ease. Begin to imagine a warm golden light washing over you from head to toe, grounding you into this present moment. Continue to breathe. Shift your awareness to your body and notice any tension you might be holding in your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. Breathing into any areas with tension and letting it melt away. Imagine that warm golden light washing over the body and into every joint, feeling the weight begin to lift. Now bring to your mind a thought or a belief that has been holding you back, something that no longer serves you. It might be a belief about yourself, your abilities, or your worth. And just trust whatever comes up for you. And imagine this belief taking shape as a physical object. So it might be a heavy rock or a tangled rope, a dark cloud, whatever form it takes, allow yourself to see it clearly in your mind's eye. And notice the weight of this object and the texture, the color. Feel its presence. And begin to recognize that this belief is not a part of you. It is only something you have carried. Now visualize a beautiful wooden box in front of you. It is sturdy, strong, and meant to hold anything that no longer serves you. Take this belief this object, whatever's in your mind's eye, and place it inside this box. Feel its weight leaving your hands and your body. Close the lid. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, feel yourself letting go. Now imagine yourself sitting in front of a roaring fire. Hold that box in your hands. Know that you are ready to release what's inside of this box. It has served its purpose, and now it is time to let go. Take one more breath and throw that box into the fire, watching the box and the object inside of it dissolve into the fire. Now, placing your hand on your heart center, you can say to yourself or out loud, I release what no longer serves me. I am open to new possibilities. I am enough. I am worthy. I am free. Take a deep breath in and bring your chin to your chest, feeling the stretch at the back of the neck, and slowly flutter your eyes open. And we're coming back. Nice release.
Yes, how beautiful.
Oh, I love it. And welcome Hope. Hope's sharing here. She needs major help decluttering. This is perfect. We're happy to have you here, Hope. And Kate, I'm going to turn it to you to kind of kick us off with this whole concept of decluttering.
Absolutely. Well, when I tell people I'm a Feng Shui consult, it's usually met with two things, right? Either people say, oh my gosh, I love everything that you do, or it kind of just stops the conversation in its tracks, right? But the people that, do show interest in it, many times will then share something that they know about Feng Shui, right? And they'll say, oh, I have a red door, or my bed faces a specific direction. And absolutely, while those are part of Feng Shui, they are Feng Shui, right? Many times the part that people want to skip over, or the part that people don't always think about, is the decluttering part. And every lecture that I've given on Feng Shui, that is always the first kind of chapter of it. And I know people want a quick fix. What statue can I put there? What can I put in the house to resolve that? And, that's like putting a Band-Aid over a wound and you didn't clean out the gravel from falling. We need to clean out the gravel before we put the Band-Aid on, right? And it's going to work so much better. Yes, putting the Band-Aid on over the gravel, I guess at some point it will work, but it's going to be way more effective to address some of the clutter in the home and getting rid of things that we don't need. Our home, and I guess I should ask you, have you created a vision board before?
Yes. Okay. It's been a while though. I was actually thinking it's probably time to do that again.
Yeah. So I love creating a vision board. And if you believe in the idea of a vision board, the idea that if we cut out little pictures, or now people do it more digitally, if you put these little pictures on a piece of paper and you put it on your wall to look at every day, and you believe that because you do that those things will come true, then you believe in the power of Feng Shui. Mm-hmm. Right? And when we think of it from that standpoint, the walls and the home are the largest vision boards you will ever create. Mm-hmm. Because what you're seeing on your walls, you're asking the universe for more of. Now, I like to talk about it a lot of times in regards to artwork. I love this symbology that we see in artwork, but it also goes into other things that we have sitting around in the home. So the home is just a reflection of ourselves. Because we're always changing, the home is always changing too. And that's the kind of unfortunate part about decluttering. This is not a one-time thing. This is not just get motivated today after the podcast and do it, and then you don't have to do it for 5 years, unfortunately, right? It is an ongoing process.
Yeah, it really is. And I think I'd love to talk to you about closets, because I'm happy to report I'm in a place where my closets are mainly cleaned out. We have like the one closet that's messy, but I definitely have noticed a pattern over the years where when I start to shove things in closets, there's a shadow work to that, right? You're like tucking things away. So I think the decluttering thing you're talking about is a big deal, because even your open space could look clean, but where's the clutter at?
Yes.
Like, where are you hiding it at?
Yeah. Well, closets are associated with secrets.
Mm.
And you think, like, if you had company over, would you be okay opening that closet? Would you be okay opening that drawer? Would you be okay opening that cupboard? And if we answer no, then that is probably an area that we need to look at.
That's interesting. What about your kitchen? Everybody has the kitchen drawer full of stuff. Is there do different rooms and the drawers and closets in those rooms also represent something different?
Yes. So we have the Feng Shui Bagua, which would lay over the home. And there's two ways to look at it. Some people do a directional, and other people do it based on the front door. And that's usually the side that I lean to. I think it's way easier to teach. It's just as effective. So when we look at the front door of the home, that's always going to be the opportunity. And then based on where that front door is, it's going to lay out the map for the relationship area, the financial area, the health area, the knowledge and expertise, the fame and reputation. And so we can get more specific into those corners and into what's actually happening in those areas, because many times whatever's happening in those areas, there is a direct story that's happening in that person's life in that area based on where it falls on the map.
Yep. Which makes sense. And that goes into one of my favorite coaching techniques is the 5 whys. And it's used a lot in Six Sigma too. So for those of you who are super process driven, when you're talking about the quality of a service or a product, you go into the 5 whys. And I think the 5 whys are a great question for this kind of thing, because when you're asking yourself, well, why do I have all this stuff shoved in this closet? Right? You're going to get a reason. And then you're going to ask why 5 times. So it's like, why am I shoving this in the closet? Because this closet is convenient. Well, why is it convenient? Because it's here. Well, why is it, you keep going into those 5 whys questions. And then you get to a place where you realize that this isn't like a personal experience or something you're just doing, but there's actually inherited fears inside yourself. So the 5 whys takes you to that root cause or the subconscious reason that you're doing something in your home or in your life. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing to do with the drawers and the rooms, because I remember years ago, Kate, these channels that I knew, like I used to do all the fairs, right? And so there was a channel, husband and wife team that were at the fair, always connected with them. And they said, it was a long time ago, they said to me, notice all your piles of stuff. Like, where do you pile your stuff? And those are a direct representation of baggage. And for me personally, like most of my piles have always been mail, bills, paperwork, which is for sure like the hardest part for me is to exist in that system, the matrix system, right? And so I never pile my clothes. I'm always hanging those and keeping those organized, right? Yeah. But I pile my bills. That's something I pile. So I just think that's an interesting way to look at things, is like, where do I have stuff? Like if we looked around our house right now, like where are the stacks?
Yeah. No, it's a great thing to think about. And the other thing is like, just because like, right, I do this for work. I preach about it. I talk about it. It's constantly in my awareness. Like it doesn't exempt me from it, right? There's no perfection around decluttering. It's a constant cycle, so it's interesting where you might even say like, oh, like I went a couple months and didn't have piles and now I have them back again. And usually kind of like what you alluded to is like, there's some sort of symbolism around why are we doing that? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can pull those conclusions ourselves, but sometimes having someone from the outside come in and say, well, is this happening? Oh my gosh, how did you know? Right? Are you psychic? No, I'm just reading the home.
Well, and isn't that interesting? Because, we talked off the air about Marie Kondo, and I wonder, like, just like any other fixer-upper show, even like Restaurant Impossible, I'm always interested when they revisit.
Mhm.
And I'd be curious if they've done any revisiting shows with Marie Kondo, because like you said, it's cool that she came in and helped them like fix everything, but like it can't possibly stay that way, because if you don't do the inner work around the decluttering, I would assume it's just going to come right back the way it was. You're going to keep buying all the stuff. You're going to keep, right? There's the inner work or the shadow work around why you're doing those things or holding on to stuff is way more important than the cleanup, right?
Yeah, and even if you address the buying issue, a holiday comes around, a birthday comes around, and people are gifting you things, or you go to I'm here in Vegas, so you go to a Vegas Golden Knights game, and because you went, they gave you a poster for going. We're constantly collecting things, so you have to do the work, but you have to keep processing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with the Marie Kondo thing, I mean, I love that example. And I think she was a great motivation for a lot of people, with being able to ask yourself, like, does this bring me happiness? And the idea of thanking our things when we get rid of them. But especially when I'm in people's homes, I've noticed that they'll say, I did that exercise. Does it bring me happiness? And I can identify, no, it doesn't bring me happiness. But, and there's always a but. And they're similar for all of us, but it costs a lot of money, right? But my mother gave it to me, and she's passed on, and I feel now responsible for holding on to it, right? But my daughter might want this in the future when she moves into her own home. So it's not foolproof, right? It's not foolproof. We have these other justifications as to why we hold on to things, and to be honest, those all sound like valid reasons to hold on to, but it's taught me a great lesson about, we need to be doing, especially as parents, we need to be doing like our own work with processing our stuff, and not just giving it to children or other people for them to take on the burden of the responsibility of processing it and letting it go.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Because you get handed stuff like, I think about like when I moved out of my parents' house, like, and went to college, what did I take with me? And, it was like my box of stuffed animals, my box of dolls, like all that stuff. And I've whittled everything down. I have like one bin of keepsakes.
Okay.
And this is actually something interesting to talk about, because I think when we talk about inner work and we talk about clutter and stuff, over the years, it seems like every time I go through some kind of spiritual awakening, I go clean everything out. It's like a whole thing. Yeah. And I also do this I have a peculiar pattern of like rediscovering myself or studying myself. So like I've kept all my journals. They're behind me in this bookshelf.
Nice.
And many times I've wanted to burn them, but every time I go through them, there's some other pattern recognition. And that is another like coaching technique, is the pattern recognition. When you journal, if you go back and look at your journal over a 30-day time period, you start to see the patterns in it. And so I go through my like box of keepsakes, like at least once a year, usually around my birthday. Right.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah. And just like, who am I? And like, what's still part of me? And I think this last year was kind of interesting, because when I went through it, I was like, gosh, I was in musical theater and I was playing the piano and the flute and singing and doing all these things. And I'm like, I am just not bringing enough music into my life. Like, I'm just not. I don't even play it in the car anymore, hardly, or I'm not driving enough to like, you always play it in the car, you're driving. And I'm like, I work from home. I'm not really doing all of that. Like if I drive to my office, it's 10 minutes away. So it was a real eye opener. So I'm just curious your thoughts on like, not just the keepsakes, but like even the artwork. Like if we're wanting to bring out more of ourselves, or if we're wanting to shift energy, like where do we start, or how do we look at that in the house? And then there's that correlation to the emotional piece too.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, aesthetic changes all the time, right? And right now we're in like this clean house aesthetic or whatever, the beiges and the whites. And it's incredible when I go into people's homes where I don't know anything about people after being in their home for, 60 to 90 minutes, because people have cleansed themselves out of their space. Now, not everyone, obviously, because there's some people that they have so much stuff in their house. You're seeing their awards from 1996 and so not everyone. So I don't know if that answers your question necessarily, but the idea of there's a balance. There is a balance. I'm not saying to clean everything out of your home to the point that I don't know anything about you, but it is interesting how we go through cycles. If we go back to that example that I gave about the vision board.
Yeah.
If you've made the vision board, usually around the end of December, we look at the vision board. What did I accomplish? And then we rip it up and throw it away and make a new one. Whereas things in the home, and I get it because there's a cost to the artwork on our wall. But an example that I always give, and I need to come up with some better stories. That I remember some of the better stories as well. But one of the examples I give is like, a client went through a breakup and she was shopping at like a Home Goods or a Ross, and she saw this artwork of a sad woman, right? And the woman was kind of like, feels, and she came home and hung it out on the wall because she resonated with this woman. She had just gone through a breakup. This sad woman resonated with her. So she brought her home, put her on the wall. So years later, she has me in her home to come do a consult. And her big question, why can't I get into a relationship? I've been trying to get into a relationship. I can't get into a relationship. So we're looking at the artwork on the walls. And remember I said, what we put on our walls, we're asking the universe for more of. Well, we're putting a spotlight on that sad woman. She sees it every day. So it's in her subconscious. It's in like, she's radiating that sad woman on the wall.
Wow.
Now I get it. That woman served its purpose. And because we paid whatever, $36.99 or $149 for it, whatever it was, we don't want to just throw it away. And honestly, it's not good for the environment either. I'm not doing that, but the idea is because we're always changing, the home's always changing. We need to be looking at our walls and saying, is that reflective of who I am? And one other just quick example that I'll give of that is, I was in a realtor's office and he had claimed that he was doing really well and he was not getting recognized the way that he thought he should. And go into his office and he has a wall full. It's packed full of all of his awards, but the last award had been from like 2013 or something. Okay. Well, I said, well, let me just ask you, if you did get an award, where would you put it? There's your wall. There's not even room for another award on your wall. And so I went through the exercise. Let's start taking down the ones from, the early 2000s and make room for, at the time, I think it was like the 2022 award to come in. Yeah. Because if we're sitting in packed homes, and that's an example of it, but like if we're sitting in packed homes, how does the universe know that you need anything else? Like, it looks like you're good. You can't even walk into your closet yet. You want more clothes, or you want you want a spouse, or you want a job promotion. Like, we're busting at the seams sometimes in our homes, expecting the universe to provide something more. So in that case where I told that gentleman, like, let's take some of these awards off. It's a great technique for anyone. If you're feeling stuck, if you're saying, I want more and I'm not getting it, start eliminating things in your home. And this does not have to be big things. That it could be this pen. Oh, this pen doesn't write the way that I like it. Get rid of it.
What's funny is like underwear is like that. Like, we keep underwear, and like I noticed recently, I was like, some of this, like the seams are coming apart. I mean, this is probably TMI, but it's like, and I'm like, why am I keeping? And I had this one pair that was so uncomfortable. It's like, why am I keeping a panty? that is so uncomfortable that I will not wear it unless it's the last thing in there. And I got rid of it.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because we do that. We do that. We keep shit that doesn't work.
Yeah. I love the example of like the bobby pins that don't have the little plastic pieces and you put it in and it hurts so bad. And then we just like throw it back in with the rest of the bobby pins, like throw it away. We're giving you permission to throw it away. Or like the orchid that your friend gave you for your birthday last year, it's just the stem. It's never reproduced. Like, it's okay. It's okay to just let it go.
Yeah.
I know. It's funny because we laugh because we've all done it. And that's where I said, like, I am not coming from a place of like, I'm on my soapbox. Oh, I never do that. No, I've been so guilty of writing with a pen and it not working and just throwing it back in the drawer thinking, well, next time, maybe it's magically going to work. And these things might sound so trivial, but the idea is writing with the pen and it's not working. It causes frustration. So you are changing you're changing your mood.
Yeah.
By allowing that. And maybe it doesn't affect you too much, but the husband comes in, or, the dog gets in your way. And like, we're already at this heightened emotion. And maybe it's not the pen. Maybe it's the drawer with too many spatulas. Maybe it's the article of clothing that has a stain that you thought, well, maybe I'll hang it back up and next time the stain might not bother me as much. We do it to ourselves. And it just like, it's either what do we need? The permission to let it go? It's okay.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think you're inspiring me because I think there's two ways you can go about this. You can either look at an area of your life you want to transform.
Yes.
And then look at how that correlates to the bagua and to your piles and to your home and to your life. Or you can go the opposite way. You can look at your home and identify what you want to transform.
Yes.
You can do either. And I think, things that are up for me right now, I really want to like update my look. For 25 years, I worked in retail and you're always like whatever the brand wants you to be. And then I also went into this, I'm self-employed and I'm teaching yoga and I'm doing readings and working with clients. And so then I'm like living in yoga pants. And I was like, really for 2025 and, part of my pictures I did with my crown and my red dress was like, I just want to be me. And there are these clothes that I just don't want to get rid of. It's like, oh, I just love these clothes. And I recognized like just in this last week, I'm holding on to like who I was, the size I was, the shape I was a single gal in my 30s, like all that stuff. And I'm like, it's just inspiring me once again. Like, it's just time to get rid of all of that. Cause to your point, if everything's shoved and I have all this stuff that I'm holding on to, all these clothes, I can't really change. Like clothes are a big thing because I was in fashion for so long and I'm so passionate about fashion. And clothes are a funny thing because if you have too much, then you never know what to put together. You get totally overwhelmed. It's like, how many makeover shows have you watched where that's the first thing they say is we got to clean all this crap out, right? Like we got to get rid of
11
everything.
pieces.
Exactly. And it's just inspiring me to just pull the cord. I did get rid of quite a bit, gave quite a bit away, but I think like, yeah, I just need to get rid of those other things because at the end of the day, like, it's just not who I am anymore. And it's time to start fresh. And that's something I hold on to because it's linked to my identity. Right. And that's the ego. And that goes into the self-inquiry about like, who am I? What am I here to do? What kind of energy do I want? Like I noticed I was wearing a lot of dark colors again, where I used to always wear bright colors, like what I have on today. So I'm like, okay, it's time to bring out the bright colors. And so it's just kind of interesting when you think about decluttering, like there's the self-inquiry of like, why do I have this clutter, whatever it is? Why am I holding on to this? Getting into those 5 whys, asking the tough questions, what emotions are coming up for me? But then there's also the other aspect of if you want to transform your finances, like probably you need to look at where that's at in your bagua, right? And then look at what you have. So like, what are some of the mistakes people make? Here's Ludwig, by the way. He's joining us on the show today. I noticed the other day, this is a squirrel moment, Kate, but the other day I'm doing this Tarot series, and Ludwig was like rooting around in his bed for like 20 minutes in the background. I didn't even know it. So when I was watching it later, I was like, oh my God, people are probably wondering what the hell my dog was doing back there. He's trying to make a little nest.
Oh, that's funny.
I know. But yeah, so what are some mistakes we make? Like, what do we do wrong?
Let me think. Like, I want to make one more comment about your clothing thing.
Yeah.
Because if someone is in that same position, because I worked in the corporate world for over a decade, and it took me a while, like even into my self-employment, I'm 8 years in, like it took me a while to finally get rid of all of my suits and stuff. But it's interesting because when I did finally do the last bulk of it, how my business improved even more. Because it's like goosebumps. Why was I holding on to that? Like I was going to go back to corporate. Like in my mind, I was thinking, there's no way I would ever do that. But the fact that I was holding on to those clothes did make me think, well, why did you feel like you might need those again? Right. So letting go of them, you are releasing, you're letting, okay, I trust the universe that I'm not going to need those anymore. And then it was able to provide even more in, my self-employment business. So it's a specific example, you can apply this to anything, but by letting things go, set the intention of what you're getting by letting it go. So in that case with the clothes, like maybe you have a book problem and you don't like giving away books, but you set the intention, you know what, by giving away these books, I'm creating more room for knowledge, for new knowledge, whether that comes in the form of a new book, or maybe it comes in the form of a mentor or a teacher or an online class. And sometimes that makes it easier to get rid of it because you're saying, well, no, I'm getting rid of this to get what? And you set the intention. So in regards to mistakes, honestly, every house is so specific. So I can't think of anything like any just great stories of mistakes, but like things like I see like, and this is kind of random because it doesn't have to necessarily do with decluttering, but family photos over the fireplace. I know people love it. It's a cute aesthetic.
Wow.
If I say it like that though, then people get it, but people have it in their home all the time, but the idea of why are we lighting fire under our family members?
Oh my God, that's funny. Our TV is over our fireplace. So I guess that's okay.
Yes,
what do you do with family photos? What a great question. So one of the things I did for Feng Shui is my kitchen is like I think it's like your abundance space in your house. And so I have all my photos of Maui in my kitchen. I have all my photos of Maui. It's turquoise, it's greens, it's waterfalls, it's sunsets. It's like all that. And I love it so much. But like, I don't know what to do with like the family photos. Cause like old school too, another place everybody puts it is down the staircase.
Yeah.
That's another place. Yeah. So what are good spots for the family photos? Like, how do we know where to put them?
So that might be a mistake is people like, and I kind of shared that earlier, people like erase themselves from the home. That is a mistake that I see a lot where there's zero family photos. There's zero representation of who they are or what they like. So if you can identify the center of the home, that's an excellent place for it. But of course, that's going to be different from home to home. The big places to avoid them, would be the bathrooms, which I know that sounds odd, but I've seen it, above the fireplace. And especially like any self-portraits, we don't want to put those in the helpful people area because we don't want to be our own helpful person. I think maybe one of the bigger issues around the photos of the family would be how's the family arranged? And again, it gets into very specific examples. So people might listen and think, who would do that? Right? I wouldn't do that. But like I've seen family pictures where someone's not really included in the family photos, or they're just in one of the photo and like another sibling is in several of the photos. And then I have the parent asking me, well, why does that child not talk to me?
Interesting.
You know, and yet we're displaying it the way that it's happening. You know, or I'll see like, you know, someone in the middle and these two people are flanked on either side of that photo. And there's an issue where this is the middle person going in between these two people. So it's interesting how you display them, how people are in the photos. Is someone kind of removed in the photo, even when it was taken?
Interesting.
You know, is everyone going like this? And then there's one person standing like this. And that's usually very telling.
Interesting. Hope's got some great questions here. Yeah. So she said, what if I'm currently in a single room in my sister's basement? I have my life's belongings in storage, but my bedroom is overflowing with what I feel are necessities, but I feel overwhelmed. And she also says she lost a lot with the house fire. So she feels like she's hoarding things she doesn't want to lose anymore. So that's some pretty big stuff, Hope, for sure. And I think, you know, it makes me think of the tower in the tarot card. You know, the archetype of the tower is so profound because there's two people falling out of the tower. One is a king with his crown and his fancy outfit and his robes, and the other is a peasant with this raggedy outfit, if you can tell. I mean, they kind of look the same in Rider Waite, but the idea is that the king is falling onto his head. And he's going to crack his head open and die because he only cares about what he's losing as he falls out of the tower, where the patched and ragged peasant is catching himself with his hands, and he's going to be fine because he doesn't really care about it. So there is something to resolve. And right, we just had these huge fires in California, and a lot of people lost their belongings. And Hope, I'm so sorry to hear you had a house fire as well. You know, what does it mean when you lose all your belongings? And synchronistically, I'm doing the Northern Exposure breakdown, and there's an episode I just watched where Dr. Joel Fleischman had to give all of his stuff away to become part of this Indian tribe. And everybody just took all of his stuff, and then they brought their own stuff to give to him in exchange. And he had to go through this experience of like, what does it mean to lose all of the things you were attached to, and then to have different things you have to come accustomed to? And so I think the tower archetype, you know, is that teaching of being the phoenix rising out of the ashes and, you know, not holding on to those things. And being able to let them go. And even Hope, just you saying you want to resolve that, like awareness is step one, right? Become aware. You're aware that you're holding on to those things because you're afraid of losing them. So I'd offer go into those 5 whys of like, why am I afraid of losing more things? And what do those things really mean to you? Are you afraid you're losing yourself? Parts of yourself, and what does that look like? I know you've had a lot of change in the last 5 years. So yeah, but Kate, I'd be curious what you have to say about this too, and also about being in a single room with all your stuff.
No, it's a lot. And it's, you know, that's the thing about Feng Shui is everyone's story is so unique, you know, so sometimes it's hard to say these blanket statements because some people might even be offended. Like, you know, like that's not my situation. So Hope, one of the techniques that I use when I'm trying to get rid of something that I don't know if I'm quite ready to get rid of, or when I'm walking clients through it, or I definitely suggest around the holidays before we bring more stuff into the home, is to take a box and go around the home and put things that maybe I could live without. And again, I understand your situation's unique where you just lost everything, right? And so you're thinking like, I need something. Right? I get it. We need those some comforts, but I would put things in a box that you think maybe I could get rid of, but we don't have to get rid of that box yet. And I don't know if there's room, maybe if your sister has a garage, or maybe if there's somewhere that you can put it under the bed, where these things are kind of out of sight, out of mind. You haven't actually gotten rid of them. So there's not that, emotional response, right? But you've kind of put them in a box, and I want you to hide it somewhere where you're not seeing it every day. And what it's doing is it's creating that degree of separation. So when you go back in a couple weeks or a couple months, we can sometimes just take the box and say, you know what, I don't even need to look in it because I haven't missed anything. And I can just put it in the trunk and take it to, you know, like a a donation center. And that degree of separation just helps with that process where it doesn't feel very traumatic, right? To get rid of those things. The other thing that I would work with is affirmations, and just saying like, I have enough, I am enough, and either reciting those things to yourself, writing it on your mirror, so you're seeing that daily.
Oh, I love that. Well, and here's some self-inquiry questions, in partnership with the affirmations, is looking at those beliefs or thoughts that are repeating, that are limiting you or attaching you to things. So asking yourself, like, what thoughts or beliefs are repetitive in my mind that are heavy or negative? And, how do these serve me? What happens if I let them go? When did I first start believing this? Who would I be without this belief? And a great question, with Hope's example is, what would I be, or who would I be without this stuff? Like,
yeah,
that would be a big thing. And then what small action can you take today to begin shifting the thought pattern? Like, that's another one, just baby steps for sure. And I love your idea of putting things in a box. Alton Brown has a whole book about decluttering your kitchen, and he exactly talks about to have a box in your kitchen, and every time you use something for 30 days, you put them in these boxes. When you use it, you put it in the box. At the end of 30 days, whatever is in your kitchen cupboards, whatever is around that you have not touched in 30 days, he says, give it away.
Yeah.
And that is a powerful, I've done that activity, and you'd be amazed at how minimalistic you get. So like, I'm really good with my kitchen. That's probably the area I'm really good with, is I don't have any one-use appliances. So I have nothing. I don't have anything that only has one use. Everything has more than one use. And I have very little stuff. I use regular knives. I don't have special blenders and all that stuff. Like, I have a blender for my protein shakes, but like, I don't have like a lot of stuff. And so I feel like it's a really good thing. And with your closet too, like, if you can do the same thing, you can, if you haven't worn it in 30 days, you give it away, which, man, is that not where I'm at. Let me just tell you, you've inspired me, Kate, for sure. I can't believe how time goes so fast. And I want to talk a little bit, Kate and I have had so many conversations about psychic stuff and astrology stuff, and I'm excited to share something different about what we offer today. And so I just want to share, when I read someone with my tarot cards, I use 6 categories. I use 42 cards when I lay them out, and it's 6 categories of your life. And what's interesting to me about today's conversation is I'm looking at those 6 categories and the elements that are in there based on the cards that are in there, and what's in there and what's not in there. And I'm always talking about the relationship space is hardly ever romantic. Like, it's always a bunch of nonsense. And especially if you're married, the relationship space might be all swords, right? It might be all intellectual or all pentacles, because you're just managing, money and logistics. So, it's another way to look at this. Like, this idea of decluttering is like, what do you have? What don't you have? Like, in these key categories of your life, and how do you start to create something different? And so, Kate, I'd love for you to share like what you offer for Feng Shui and how you can help support people either locally or remotely.
Yeah. So I'll say the most popular would be just a Feng Shui consult, which is 90 minutes, typically in the space, but I do have several clients that I zoom in to the space. So with that, if it's a virtual, they provide usually the floor plan prior, or if I can see the address online, that way I just have my bearings with the home, and then we go through the home via Zoom or FaceTime. And it's 90 minutes in the space, which, can seem really quick, but we get a lot done. And then that comes with a follow-up email, and then 90 days of follow-up support as you buy things, or as you declutter things, or as we move things around. Like I maybe had mentioned in like the follow-up email, if things don't work, this has happened since, and how I can support still those follow-up days from the appointment.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I might have to do that with my office. I feel like for sure. And as for me, I mean, I think for everybody out there, my website has shifted and evolved over the last year. And so I just offer I offer transformative coaching. It's 30 minutes or 60 minutes. And a lot of people are asking me if I'm still doing readings. They're actually under transformative coaching. And part of that is because of the rules and regulations of even what I can call my sessions. And I just want to offer, if you come for a transformative coaching session, things have changed a little bit for those of you that maybe saw me before. But I'm still, using my insight and my intuition, but we really work on the integration of the information. So now I offer integration notes post session to help you work through what we talked about. We're really diving into the why, right? The root cause of why things are happening. So if you're interested in looking at what's happening in any of the categories of your life, I'm happy to support you as well. So, and I know, Kate, we're going to do this more often. So if any of you out there have topics or things you want to talk about, dump them in because we'd love to hear that, and excited to have everybody watching live. Any last minute words of wisdom?
I would just say if you're feeling stuck, right, or you want something more, just to go through the house and move things. Move things around, shift the energy, literally. So, think of a big dresser, and if it sits on carpet, how much effort it takes to move the dresser out of the grooves or groves that it's created, right, in the carpet. And so if you're feeling stuck, literally unstick your furniture, move the dresser just, a couple inches to unstick it. Or like we've talked about, go through your closet, go through the pen drawer, just start getting rid of things and setting the intention of new stuff is coming in.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And my 2 cents is buy a journal if you don't have one for 2025, and start with a list of what you do want to declutter and what are those beliefs and what are the things that are just in your mind that you just want out of your mind. What are those things? Write them down and start to dig into them with the 5 whys. Why are those things there? Where did those limiting beliefs come from? So thank you so much for joining our chat today, Kate. And website, what's your website? Throw that out there for everybody.
www.kateswick.com.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Always. I love you so much. And tomorrow's Kate's birthday. So everybody say happy birthday to Kate. Yes, do. Happy birthday. I hope it's amazing. And you all can find me at BuddhistBiohacker.com or LisaGunshore.com. They go to the same place. And I will be back diving into the Chariot today. So for those of you who are following my Tarot series, we're going to be talking about the Chariot, which is kind of synchronistic also, because that card is about movement as well.
Yes.
So, oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining, and we will see you all soon.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye.